Hi, I'm Dana, and today's video is about being autistic and being perceived as being rude and why I think that is. Because it's one of those things that I've had a lot in my life. There's been a lot of times that I've been told or later found out that people thought I was being really rude and being nasty even. There's been so many times across my life that I've been told that I'm being rude or have been rude, and I either straight up disagree or just didn't realise and then later like, oh yeah. And it's something that I've seen discussed a little bit more online recently as well, especially from neurotypical and other like non-autistic people, and it frustrates me. I think that it's one of those things that people just aren't putting the effort into understanding. So this might help someone to actually get it a bit more, and I think for like fellow autistic people, my usual regular viewers, it just, this is what we do. We talk about this stuff and then we feel better because we're all doing it and it's not just on us, you know? That's how it be. So let's get into it. The vast majority of the time that I've been told that I'm rude or being rude or something I've done has been rude, I didn't even notice. A lot of the time I'm straight up like, is it? Like, I don't know. I'm not picking up on like the social cues from other people that it's rude. I'm not aware of like I'm just not aware. There's so many things that I'm very just like, but it's true. You know, and alternatively in other situations where it's like not a case of what's fact or not. Like, for example, there's been times when I've left social situations and then found out it was rude of me to leave. Why is it rude of me to leave a situation I didn't want to be in? Like, I've done it in the most polite way I could. I've said goodbye and been nice about it. It's not like I've been like, fuck y'all, I'm out. Like, I've been nice about it, so why is it still rude? Like, I didn't want to be there. It's not fair that I should have to stay or be seen as being rude. And alternatively, I don't think I should have to lie or pretend something isn't the way it is in order to not be perceived as rude. Like, I'm sorry, I know that this is probably like the height of autism or whatever, but I'm just like, if that's the way it is, that's the way it is. Like, I really dislike rudeness, and there's just so many times that I'm like, I don't understand that it is rude. I don't understand why they think I'm doing is rude. I don't get why people are perceiving it as being rude. I think it's a perfectly fair and valid thing to do. And it's not even that I'm like disagreeing with them and saying like this thing isn't rude. I just don't get how it is. You know, I'm not arguing, I'm confused. However, there are other times when I'm very aware that I'm being rude and I just don't care that it's rude. And I think neurotypicals probably would, but I just don't. There's times that like, if especially if it's some sort of like issue, my like social justice side and like what's right and the black and white thinking very much comes out. And it's like, I don't care if I'm being rude if you're being an asshole, you know? Like, back when I was still speaking to my family, there were many times that I would just straight up get up and leave an argument or say something really rude to someone and be like, that's because you're a dick. Because my family were really like homophobic and racist and like, and it's one of those things where it's like, I'm aware that I'm being rude to them, but they deserve it. You know? Like, sometimes you should be rude to people. Sometimes people deserve rudeness. They deserved far worse. The fact that I just called them an asshole and walked away in a way that they felt was a bit rude, they're lucky. And I think that's also the autism thing of like, sometimes someone's got to say it. There's been a lot of times in my life when I'm just sat there and it's like, I know that like it's rare that this happens, bear in mind, because I don't pick up on social cues and I don't tend to know what other people are thinking. And even if I think know what other people are thinking, I often find out that I was on a completely different wavelength and somehow just assumed they were on mine. But every now and again, there's times when we're all sat there, it's like, I know that everyone in the room is thinking this thing, and if somebody just said it, it would probably be easier. But it's going to be hard to say because it's rude or it's a bit mean or whatever else. Like, I feel like a lot of the time rudeness and meanness are kind of the same thing. Do with that what you will, I don't want to go into it. But I just, like, if someone needs to say it, no matter how hard it is, like, if the consequence of saying the thing is going to be something positive or an improvement of some sort, I'll say it. Like, there's so many times that I've told people things or said things or like acted in a certain way and people have been like, well, someone needed to, but like, wow. And it's like, well, if someone needed to, why the fuck didn't you? Why has it always got to be me? Every time? That's not fair. But I think that honestly ties into like oversharing and things like that as well, because I'm just like, there's so many things that I don't understand why it's taboo and why you're not meant to talk about it and why you shouldn't say it. Like, if it helps someone, if it's useful in some way, like if it's going to have in the long term positive effect, say it. Quite often in those situations, as much as I'm like, I'm going to have to be the one to say this and I don't really want to, it's often not until after the situation that I'm like, oh, that was actually quite rude of me to do, quite rude of me to say, it perhaps wasn't really my place, it wasn't, you know? Like, I don't really realise while I'm doing it that it's going to be rude or that it could have a negative consequence for myself, kind of thing. The other side of that, though, is that there's also been a lot of times that I've been really nervous to say something because I think it's going to be like quite rude or come across as rude, or they're going to interpret it as rudeness. And then when I've said it, it's been completely fine. And I'm just there like, oh? Like, it's so bizarre to me that there are definitely like situations within like neurotypical relationships and friendships and social situations in general where like you're just suddenly randomly allowed to be rude about certain things in certain situations, and I can never tell which one it's gonna be. I never know if it's gonna be like a no consequence, it's fine to say situation, or that was really rude, you shouldn't have said that situation. I just can't pick up on the things that I need to pick up on to be able to tell the difference. Like, it's not there and I don't get it. Ugh. And it's because of that I sort of don't think rudeness exists. I kind of don't think anything's all that rude, honestly. Like that's a lie. There's lots of things that I find really fucking rude and that really annoy me about people. I have like a very like Hannibal Lecture fucking view of them as well. I absolutely think that we should eat rude people. But this might be, like I said before, where I perceive rudeness and meanness, it's the same thing. Because I think a lot of the time people use being rude as an excuse to be mean, when I talk about being rude, it's the social situations where like I don't intend anyone to be like upset or offended. It's just something that has to be done or said, you know? Like, I'm trying to think of something I can use as like an example without shading anyone that I care about. My aunt. I had an aunt who had quite severe mental health shit going on, had a lot of stuff happening. So like, I would excuse pretty much anything that she did or said or whatever else, honestly, because like, you've got shit dealing with. But it meant that she really struggled to keep her house clean or tidy in any way, and she also had a whole bunch of animals, way too many. So when I'd go over, her house was fairly dirty, and like, I've been in a lot of dirty houses, my house has been very dirty, like, I'm not a cunt about it, I really, like, it's whatever. But she's got to cook me a meal, I'm gonna have to sit there and be in the house. I don't want to be because it's dirty. I don't speak to anyone, so it's whatever. But like, for some reason it was seen as being really rude of me. Like, I'd show up and be like, "Aya, it's lovely, can't wait to eat with you, it's great to see you, can we clean a bit first?" And everyone that like heard about this or found out about this or like went over with me would be like, "Oh my god, you can't just ask someone if you can clean their house, that's so rude." And I was like, why is it though? You know, like, I could sit here and feel very, very uncomfortable and feel weird about the food I'm eating because of like my sensory surroundings. It would be a not a horrible time because I like my aunt enough, but you know, it wouldn't be a great time for me. Alternatively, I can go in and be like, yeah, I'm not comfortable with this, let's clean a bit. It helps her and I'm gonna have a nicer time and get to actually enjoy my time there, you know? To some degree when she's not being racist, but you know. And I feel like that ties into like every single one of my other points because I didn't realise it was rude. I think it has like a positive outcome, so I think it should be fucking fine and not rude anyway. There's the sense of justice of like, she deserves the help. Like, she's not living in like a pigsty because she can't be bothered or because she's lazy, like my family like to think about her. It's because she's got shit going on, and like, when you're fighting for your fucking life, the last thing you gotta do is clean your house. I'm sorry, that's how it be. You know, like, but I think that's the other thing, is that when I'm doing or saying things that are considered rude, I'm doing it with the best intentions. And I'm very like, it doesn't matter what your intentions are, if it's upsetting someone, if you're like being a dick with the best intentions, you're still being a dick. So I don't use that as like an excuse or to excuse myself or to like pretend it's okay. But I do also think that rudeness is something that comes with negative intentions a lot of the time. And by doing it with the best intentions and it being like me trying to help and trying to like improve things for people and myself and whatever else, it shouldn't be seen as being rude. But I also know that for a lot of neurotypical people, if they went into that situation, they were like, shall we clean your house? They'd be doing it with like a lot of judgment and shittiness, whereas that's just not there for me. But a lot of the time I feel like it's being perceived in the way as though I'm judging people and as though like I'm trying to like make an issue or like make a thing out of what's going on rather than just help. And I feel like that's one of the reasons that I succeed much more with like friendships and relationships with other neurodivergent people than I do other neurotypical people, because it's the thing of like our brains just get that. Like we know that when someone's like, I've had people like close friends say things that other people would definitely consider to be rude, and I've been like, oh, I can use this to like grow and improve, and I get why you've told me this and it's really useful, thank you. But they've told me in such a way where it's clear that they've been taught this is going to be rude, and I know I should feel like it's rude, but I just don't, because it's the best intentions and it's useful and it's helpful and it's fine. You know, like I think a lot of the time there's just like a disconnect in like neurotypical people know why they're doing a thing, so when we do it for a different reason they can't function and like understand that we're doing it for a different reason, because them and everyone around them's done it for a completely different reason, which is normally, you know, something maybe a little bit judgmental, a little bit not so nice. You know, and that's not to say that like all neurotypical people are the same or all autistic people are the same, because there's lots of different people. Well done me. But there's just like a huge amount of diversity, and some people are assholes and some people aren't. You're gonna find that within any group of people, regardless of brain type. But in my experience, for the most part, I feel like autistic people just sometimes have better intentions behind things that would be considered rude. Like, this is such a specific thing we're talking about, okay? I'm not trying to say like autistic people are nicer. We're not. Loads of us are assholes. Lots of us are assholes without even realising we are, and lots of us aren't assholes too, like, or try not to be. You know, like there's diversity within people, but just due to the way that autistic brains work and the autistic like traits and things that we have going on, I don't feel like we often intend to be rude, and I feel like we're so often like misjudged and misperceived as being rude when we're not being, and it's very unfair, honestly. And it's one of those things as well where like I don't know how to like fix it for myself, because a lot of things I've been able, I mean, I don't always know how much of it's like growing as a person and learning things versus just like improving my mask, to be fair. But like in a lot of ways I feel like I've managed to unmask. And it's rudeness that's the big one, where I'm just like, I don't know how to get people to stop thinking that I'm being rude when I'm not. And I've so often been told that people like, not so much anymore. I think my like vibe has changed over the last like year or so. But I used to quite often be told that people thought I was going to be like quite rude and stuck up and bitchy. And I think a lot of that was my anxiety, and continues to be my anxiety, where I'm just sort of like, it comes across as though I'm standoffish when it's actually that I'm just really terrified of social interactions, and people perceive that as like some sort of snobbiness and rudeness and not wanting to interact, when it's actually just that I'm really fucking anxious, you know? But like I just really don't get rudeness, and it's one of those things where I also think it's like one of my few positive traits is that like it's kind of hard for you to make me think that you're being rude or like mean or offensive or anything, because if it's true and if it's like a genuine thing, then I will just accept it as a fact rather than rudeness or whatever. So yeah, that's my slightly garbled thoughts on being autistic and being rude. I don't know what the fuck that was. I wish I could edit it out, but I don't want to have to re-say whatever it was that I just said. So if you'd like to help me monetarily survive, it doesn't even go towards the content, it goes towards me living, you can follow me as a YouTube member, you can follow me on Patreon, and you can also donate on Ko-fi. If you are also trying to survive, you can subscribe here, that'd be lovely. You can follow me on TikTok or Instagram or Twitter. You can follow me in all sorts of places, but my favourite one is here, so please do subscribe if you enjoy this video. I post on Thursdays and Sundays consistently, like all the time. I'm managing it, guys. And I've got an Otis, and he's adorable, so if you don't subscribe for me... He hated that. I don't know why I did that to him. I'm sorry, baby man. I'm gonna go and stop tormenting my creature. So whoever you are, wherever you are, I hope you're having a lovely morning, evening, day, afternoon, week, month, year, and I will see you again in a couple of days.